Hey, this is Michael Derman. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the importance of setting goals. A lot of people set up their company and they work really hard, but we're going to talk about really how important it is to set goals for your company to be successful. So let's get into it. Setting the goals for your company, right? So what does that really mean? So as an entrepreneur, right, we might say to ourselves, I never want to work another day in my life. I want to make millions and millions of dollars. I want to be successful, right? All of those things are kind of general goals, but unless you really boil it down into the specific goals that you're trying to achieve, it's really hard to set your company up for success, okay? So what are some examples of goals, right? So you might say for your company, I want to open up my first pizza store by the end of the year. You might say, I want to have 10% market share of a particular market, right? But think about those goals. What do they all have in common, right? They're specific. They're not general like, hey, I want to be successful, right? They're also, you look at some metric or measure, right, which tells you how you're actually going to determine how you're doing, right? So if we said, hey, we want to have great brand presence, right, that's different from saying we want to achieve 10% market share, okay? So you really want these goals to be very specific and measurable as opposed to kind of general and amorphous, okay? And when you set these goals, here's kind of a rule of thumb when you set them. They shouldn't be easy and they shouldn't be impossible, okay? They should be doable but hard, right? They should force you to stretch yourself, okay? We don't want goals that we're going to just be able to show up and be able to achieve, and we don't want goals that are so unrealistic that we're not going to be able to get them done, okay? Make them specific, make them measurable, right? And challenge yourself to do them, okay? Next is, whenever you're developing goals, don't do it on your own. Involve your team. It's one thing to go to a whole bunch of people in a fitness class and say to everybody, we expect you all to get 30 people into every one of your fitness classes. It's very different to involve all of those fitness instructors in thinking through what are the right number of people we can get into our classes. How could we team and collaborate to do that? And when you let people participate in the process, it doesn't feel to them like it's just being handed to them. They feel like they have part of it, and they actually feel like they have more buy-in and more accountability for the whole thing, okay? Next is aligning goals, right? What goals really do is they really help you align the priorities of the company, okay? So I'll give you an example. Take Facebook, right? If Facebook set out and said, our goal is to make $1 billion, right? They might have charged you day one for setting up a Facebook account. I know that seems ridiculous, right? But they might have said everyone's going to pay a penny, right, to set up a Facebook account. But that wasn't their goal, right? Their goal was to get market share and to get to a certain number of users because they knew that if they achieved that goal, they would achieve their financial goals. So think about that. Somebody might charge you for something, somebody might give something away for free just to achieve a different goal. So what setting goals does is it actually tells you how do you set your priorities, how do you go about aligning your scarce resources, which may just be you, right, to aligning to the goals that you've decided to set up for your company. So let's say it's great. You've spent time. It might be by yourself. It might be with your team. You've set really good goals, right? You want to get 10% market share. You want to open up your first store. You want to launch your first jewelry line by March. You've done all that, but you're busy all day long. How do you make sure that you're staying on track, right? Or if you're off track from those goals, how do you adjust? So it's really important to create processes to track those goals, right? So first is just create a regular process. What does that mean? That might mean the weekly meeting at 10 a.m. every Monday morning. You're going to sit down and go, okay, me, or okay, team, right? How are we doing against our goal, right? Is what we did last week and what we're going to do this week aligning? Does it make sense? Just by creating that regular process, you actually create some discipline to going back to your goals all the time, okay? Next is try to create some kind of dashboard. That one place where everybody can look to see how you're doing. If you've ever looked at a big call center that takes like customer service calls, you'll see these big screens up on the wall that say, 100 calls taken and 95 resolved properly or 92 answered within 30 seconds. And they are literally in these huge billboards, right, up in call centers. It might be a Post-it written on your computer screen, okay? But you need a dashboard. You need some place that you're always going back and referring to see how you're doing. So when you think about setting those goals that are specific and measurable and that are somewhat attainable but will push you, right? And getting your team involved, right? And aligning your resources to those goals, you can see why they're so important in keeping you on track, especially when you have limited resources as a small company. Finally, bring together the process, have that process be regular, and you'll really be on your way to actually not just creating your goals, but having those goals actually be the guardrails that keep you on track for your business. Remember, in addition to this video, we've got detailed written information for you about this topic right side by side with the video in this lesson.